Hi everyone. Thank you for joining, especially those who are joining early. We will start in exactly a minute. Dr. Aruna Sharma is with us already, but we'll just wait for a minute so that everyone who has signed up comes. Okay, it's 11. Thank you everyone for taking time on a Sunday morning, Sunday cold morning if you're in Delhi or any part, this part of the country. Um, Today we have with us Dr. Aruna Sharma, and I'll briefly introduce her. But for those of you who are joining us for the first time, I'll quickly tell about what Indian School of Democracy is and what Democracy Samvaad is. So, Indian School of Democracy is a non-partisan organization, and we conduct short-term and long-term programs for aspiring grassroots political leaders. We imagine leaders who have moral courage and imagination to really make democracy work for each and every citizen of the country. Right now, we are accepting applications for our flagship program. It's called the Good Politician. It's a 9-month program for anyone who plans to contest at a panchayat or a councillor level in the next 2 or 3 years. We'll post the link in comments. Do check it out. Democracy Samvaad, which is where you are, is a weekly webinar that we've been doing since October. The idea is to have generative conversations about our country, about matters related to our country, about politics. Unlike what we see in TV debate, which is often rhetoric, we don't get a chance to really engage. The idea is to make it come alive, make it a dinner table or a breakfast table conversation in this case, with leaders who really served in public. And today, one of our today is a really special day because I know Arunaji because of the Harvard Kennedy School Women's Network, and she is a retired Indian Administrative Service officer of the 1982 batch from Madhya Pradesh cadre. She retired as Secretary of Steel, Government of India in 2018. And since then, since whenever I've known her, she's really engaged in matters related to public as well. Before that, she was also appointed as a Secretary of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. She also served as the Development Commissioner and Additional Chief Secretary, Rural Development and Panchayati Raj in Madhya Pradesh. That's something we're going to talk a lot about today. And she's been a Commissioner and Secretary of Public Health in MP, as a Managing Director of the MP Dairy Federation. She holds master's degrees in development studies from University of Bath, UK, and a PhD in development economics from Delhi University. She's also written a book about called Game Changers, which is about smart cities and how government funds can actually be utilized very smartly to really make the development happen. I learned a lot when I read her book, so I'm very excited to have her today talk about these things and break down some of the myths about both bureaucracy and the intersection of bureaucracy and politics. So, welcome, Aruna Sharma. Really, really happy to have you with us.
Thank you, Meenakshi. Thank you for such generous introduction. Right.
The way it will work for the audience again who are joining us for the first time is for first 35 minutes or so, I'd ask some introduction questions to Arunaji, and then we'll open it up for your questions so that you get a chance to interact with her as well and ask whatever questions that come to your mind. So my first question, Arunaji, is why did you choose public service? Why Indian Administrative Services? And yeah, if you can briefly walk us through your amazing journey, that'd be really helpful.
Well, why I joined at that young age of 2021, I don't think so. The thoughts are so clear in mind as to why. It's fashionable to say that you want to engage in social service and everything, but you are too naive and raw at that age. Basically, what fascinated me is that I used to be quite active in the student politics and debates and everything. So I thought this is a kind of a job which I will enjoy. And I always believe the profession has to be something which you're passionate about so that you enjoy every bit of it and it's not a burden on you. So it's not a job, it is something you want to do. And that's how I thought of taking civil service. But frankly speaking, it was accidental. We had a neighbor who was working with Andhra government. My father was posted in Hyderabad then. So he used to see me playing around and everything. So one day he called me and said, why don't you take civil services? And I come from a family of engineers and doctors and everything. So I was saying, for what and why? Then he said, will your parents allow me to take you to my office? I said, my father has gone abroad. You can ask my mother. And she said, fine. I went with him and I met a couple in Andhra government, Dev in Andhra. That was a combination of Telangana and Andhra. And then I thought, okay, this is the kind of job for me. And then I was pretty serious for 1 year, studying for it, and then made it.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I think a lot of us who don't know much about bureaucracy or haven't really engaged with public servants or civil servants as much, can you walk us through what a day is like, especially those early years when you were posted in the district? Because I feel like a lot of us living in urban areas don't really understand that reality. So if you can paint a picture for us about those early days, what is it like to be in the district? That'll be really.
Surely. It's like I was also urban born, urban bred kind of a person. So when I got my under training and then as a first as an SDM, basically what I found is what it needs is to establish yourself in public. You need a not just person and you don't have your personal agenda to anything that you're doing. And that brings in a lot of respect. And incidentally, I was the first woman in all my postings right from day one to end of the day of my career. So, in the sense, the people were also intrigued as to how tough a woman can be or how it does. And it was a learning, like you were talking about the young politicians who are coming. I remember a very powerful minister was there in that subdivision, and I was also very new. So I used to get a lot of notes from him do this, do that, do that. I used to keep on keeping it in the drawer of my table. So the day he came there on tour in the guest house, I went to meet him with the butler. And I told him that you keep on writing, do this, do that, but I can't do. It's not in the rules. So that was like a first lesson he told me. He said, I am a politician. I will never say no to anybody. Anybody comes to me, I'm going to write on it, do this, and mark it to you. Now it is your responsibility to see what is correct, what is within rules, what is just, and you do. When you do it, I'll take the credit of it. When you don't do it, I'll say, okay, वो खड़ दिमाग है सुनती नहीं है. So, in the sense that set the ball rolling very clear in my mind that basically it's a two different roles that a politician and a bureaucrat has to play. You are there to think long terms. You are there to execute the development as well as law and order. You have to be tough. And the politician is something who has to win back the election, go back to the public. So they are not going to say no. But the common objective of both politician and the bureaucrat is the growth of the area. And that is 80%. So there are no quarrels. And if you provide a platform, like what I found, many a time politicians go and do announcements unprepared, and then it doesn't get delivered. Then there is tensions between them. So what I used to do, my pre-planning list, I used to hand over to the politicians of my area, right from my subdivision stage till then, and tell them if you announce anything from this list, the action will be done within a week. If you announce anything outside the list, then I'll examine it. Then I can't commit anything. And that made very convenient way of operations both for them and both for me. And it also helped me in advanced planning and proper utilization of the financial resource as well as other resources that are available. So if you look at it, it is an eye opener, because for the first time in my life, I heard that a girl child is treated differently. Now I've never seen in my life or in my among relations or anything. So it was like, okay, this also happens, you know. And similarly, the amount of poverty you see and small hurdles, the little red tapeism. But I saw the intention of the people and the eagerness to grow very strong. So if you become a facilitator, then I thought it's no problem. You can go ahead. And like in our service, we say your reputation travels ahead of you. So what you set in the first few years of your career, that stands by you throughout the career.
That's a very interesting insight. And I was actually going to come to it later in the conversation. But since you brought it up about the short term view and the long term view, I'm wondering if later in your career, especially when you dealt with senior politicians as well, can you give us an example where they wanted to pass a policy or something like that, which wasn't really good for benefit of the society? And how did you negotiate that? How did you
Very
navigate?
true. Very true. I have no hesitation in telling you, when the money bill was coming for Aadhaar, right? At that time, the section 7, if you read it, it is written by me by hand on the file. Literally, no typing, it is by hand. Because at that time, they were thinking to make it universal, and I was very clear in my mind that you cannot make it mandatory unless until you are giving anything from the government treasury. So from government treasury, if you're giving any social protection benefit or any advantage, or you're procuring and paying for the crop or tender documents, then you can demand an identification and limit the role of Aadhaar only to as an identifier, nothing beyond that. And in case somebody does not have it, you cannot deny the benefits if they are entitled to. And that is exactly the way I worded Section 7. So there was a complete difference of opinion on what was drafted before and what I had put it. And then I had a talk with the minister of the department. It couldn't succeed. And I had a talk with the then finance minister. And I must say, to the credit of Mr. Arun Jaitley, he got the point immediately. I said, in Assam, you are not done here. And you cannot deny the entitlement just because of that. He immediately did it, and it went as it is. And frankly speaking, when the Supreme Court case happens, that write up in that para stood by the government. So, in the sense, what you have to do is your homework has to be perfect before you take up an issue. And there will be difference of opinions, but you have to argue it out logically. And in the end, when it's proven right, then it stands by you. And that adds on to what I said, your reputation.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. So that moment, there were tensions, no doubt about it. But then that is the intention of anything we are doing. And we bring in a lot of experience and continuity. And they bring in the public pulse. So two has to join together. Like when I was in steel, definitely the feedback which the minister gets at ground level, you may not get. There may be some barriers of the kind of people who come and meet you. So if two of you are exchanging those notes, then you come up with a policy. So steel policy 17, if you see, it stood by lockdown, it stood by everything, and the best V curve we see is in that industry. So whether they are secondary steel manufacturers or primary steel manufacturers. So that is what is important.
Thank you. Yes, I really hope a lot more bureaucrats are doing their homework as rigorously as you mentioned, and as is needed. I was
See, the
wondering.
percentage is not small. The percentage is there, but we are all faceless. So that is what
Yeah,
happens,
yeah.
right?
I think that's what we don't see as citizens. We mostly see the political face. But even in political face, and that's what I want to talk about in the next question, is we mostly see the members of parliament and at best chief ministers, even MLAs. Forget councillors and sarpanches. Mostly it's these people who are in the face. But actually, in a decentralized or aspiring decentralized country like ours, there's a huge role that local grassroots political leaders play. And since you've served in the Panchayati Raj and rural development department, I was wondering if you can tell us, what does a sarpanch do? What is he or she supposed to do? And what is their potential, bureaucratically speaking, in terms of using the budgets, getting stuff done, what are some of the things they can do and what are the challenges they face? Because that's the focus of our programs and that's the target audience we want to work with.
Absolutely right. If you look at the 73rd, 74th Amendment of the Constitution, that strongly advocated the decentralization of development and the administration. And the major role of development, except for the big project of intra-district roads, or if you look at it at interstate roads or interstate railways or big irrigation dams, everything else falls within the district. So it is the urban and the rural areas, the panchayat and the ward members and the mayors and the district planning committee who have to do the role. But what has happened is the ignorance at that level, and that's how you see a difference between a good sarpanch or a bad sarpanch, a good mayor or a bad mayor. And the maximum money, it will be a surprise to people, lies there. It doesn't lie up. Maximum money lies there. And that is what I've said in my book, You at the Rate Game Changer for Inclusive Growth, which is translated in Hindi and Marathi and maybe in Oriya also. So what is there is no panchayat. Average size or population of panchayat is 1500. That is 500 households. And they get a crore of rupees per annum for infrastructure. Now just think 500 households, a crore of rupees. There is no reason why should have substandard infrastructure. You must have cement concrete roads, trains, pipe drinking water, pakka house, proper school buildings, panchayat buildings, computer linkage, everything has to be there. So 5 years tenure of a sarpanch, 5 crore of rupees is big, and this does not include the MLA and MP fund, not at all. This is coming from the Finance Commission, the Central Finance Commission, the State Finance Commission, if you combine the two. This includes converging it with NREGA, and that is what we did. We issued instructions how you can converge the two funds so that labor components come in NREGA and capital component comes from here. And now Ministry of Rural Development, Govt of India in their website is showing how much money has gone to each panchayat. So it has been made completely transparent. You are aware about it. Plus, state governments, many of the state governments give a portion of their stamp duty collection, a portion of the various cess they are collecting. So all put together, it is a crore plus. And the bigger panchayats with 20,000 population, it ranges 2 to 3 crores of rupees. So what is needed is you have to set in the parameters for smart village. So what kind of an infrastructure? Okay, there will be no filth in my village. There will be no kitchen in my village. We will have all clean pipe drinking water. We will have proper electricity. We will have cleanliness. We will have a proper school building with 5 classrooms, playgrounds, then Anganwadi proper building, then hospital, then a room for common service center or for computer access. So if they decide in a panchayat to do all this, the money is there. The money is there. So you decide. So what I'm advocating is you have 4 ladders. One ladder you put it for infrastructure, 25 steps. You decide 25 items you want to do in your 5 years, tenure. So you know exactly what is there and fulfill that. The second comes as social protection. So if you, and now the RBI's financial inclusion policy has also included what we initiated, that your account has to be in 5-kilometer radius. So in Jandan, which was taken from MP and graduated at national level, the mistake that happened is they included only the banks. They did not include then the post office and the cooperative banks. And if you look at the population, then more than 3/4 is post office and cooperative banks. Only 1/4 or less than 1/4 is banks. So it ended up people having an account 75 kilometers away or 100 kilometers away. So here I call it a difference between having access and gaining access. You have an account, so you have an access. But you don't gain an access because you're not going to waste a wage of a day to go and do your bank transaction and waste your full day for it. So that is not going to happen. So in 5-kilometer radius, which now RBI has also put it in the model, you have your accounts of the complete catchment area. And that account is seeded into the database of the state government and correspondingly it goes into central government. So all G2P, whatever you are getting will go in that account. So your credit, so the advantage of this is it is transparent. The second thing is you also get the advantage of your credit worthiness because the transactions happen in your account. So that is the second thing of what you call it as a social protection. The third thing is your new livelihood opportunities. The skilling. I think the sarpanch and others have to think out of the box. There has to be a value addition. See, so much of things we are talking about food processing. Food processing, big food processor is different, but there is a stage in between. If I give the example, the mint leaves, right? Now, mint leaves, you make the menthol out of it. Now, stage one of decanting it and distill it and make a menthol can easily be done in a group of 4 5 panchayats. So, if you put a distiller there and make it, then the dry mint leaves will become powder, which your masala wala will come and buy at your doorstep. And this menthol, the pharmacy and the confectionery industry will buy. So, the money will be in that area, extra money, as well as it will generate a good sustainable employment to at least 25 to 30 youth in that area. So that is the kind. So I've just given one example to you. That is the kind of livelihood these people have to think out of the box and do it. So step one, you cannot do the marketing. I mean, let us leave it to the big food processors and industrialists. So like make a pulp and put it in cans, insulated cans can be done for tomato or these kind of fruits, but then processing it, making it to whatever eatable product is to be done and distributing it to the market, you can leave it to others. So this stage one has to happen, and this thought process will come by the local leaders and the local bureaucrats along with them. And these plans, and that's why in 73rd, 74th Amendment, you have a district planning committee in which there is a representative of Sarpanch, there is a representative of urban local bodies, the MLAs, the MPs, and the bureaucrats of that area, and the line departmental experts. Unfortunately, what has happened is district plan exercise, you have reduced it to a binders exercise. So you have an agriculture plan, you have an irrigation plan, you have this plan, that plan. You bind it in a book, put a label on it, and you say, okay, this is my district plan. No, you have to establish horizontal linkages. You have to think about it. So it is a combination of bottom up and top down and bring in the best for that area. And this is long term. So irrespective of which political party comes or which officer comes and goes, 90% of it remains. It remains. And this is something, this continuity can come only when the elected representatives get involved, intelligently involved into the entire process. I put it this way. I'll give you an example. In one district where I was collector, generally I have a habit that after I settle down for a couple of months, I try to meet the exes, those who were there before me, the ex-collectors in that area. So like that, I went and met one person who was 3 generations apart in the collectorship of that district. So he said, okay, how are oranges doing in that district? I said, oranges, I didn't see them at all. And I think myself to be touring a lot and having a pulse with the people. So I said, no, I'm not aware about it. I came back and checked. So when he was there, he introduced orange in that area and it took off very well. So when we started talking to farmers, they had number of smaller irritants, very small irritants. Sorters were not there, access was not there, mandis was not there. All this was there. So we tried to solve that problem, and it was amazing to know at the end of my 3 years tenure in that district, they had a niche place of orange market at Nagpur because they are more juicy, more better, more good. The farmers got extra income. Now, this continuity of information, that is where the local leaders and the district plan will make a difference. If we don't have, it is accidental that we got talking. Otherwise, all his efforts would have gone down the drain, and we would have missed the opportunities to pick up the threads and bring that kind of an income to the farmers of that area. And definitely they are doing very well now. They have a producer company, everything. They are doing a fantastic job in that area. So that is what is needed when we talk of the young politicians who are aspiring. Now today is the day of computers. You can have household wise data of everybody in your area. You know the birth, death, things. You must ensure social protection based on that. You must have a infrastructure database. You must know the gaps. And I'm telling you where the money is. And this district plan, what I'm talking about, there is no district in India which minus salaries get less than 1200 crores of rupees. Think about it, 15 lakh population is average population of a district. Unless until you are a real bad manager, you think of a business, if you're a business house, 15 lakh population with to-do list, good health infrastructure, good this, good that, and everything, and you are not able to deliver. Right. So this includes your agriculture money, irrigation money, education money, health money, etc., etc. So that is why don't undermine this district planning plan. You know, do be active participant, be informed participant, do it, and never give it assign this job to an outsider, because I've seen it. Many people used to make a district plan and used to just gather dust and decorate the shelf, because unless until you are involved, that is the local people are involved, you will not identify with it. And when you start doing it, like if you have 10 gullies in your village and 3 gullies you have already done cemented, people see you are touching every person, every household. Anybody who is to walk on that kitchen is not walking any longer. You have a beautiful pipe water system. You have toilets in their homes, because water is there, toilet is there. And that's why I always say the water connection has to precede the toilet program. One of my senior very beautifully said, एक लोटा लेके जाओ या एक घड़ा भर के आओ. Right. Who is going to bring that ghada just because you want to use the toilet or flush the toilet? Nobody. So they prefer to take a lota and go out. So that's why, you have to work out step by step. Not in a hurry, but not delaying too much also, because it's a race. And one thing I always see is don't accept substandard things. Financial resource is the least of the problem. Managerial issue is the major problem. And that's why I got excited with the kind of program you're targeting at, because that is what is needed. It's not a money issue at all. The issue is how you manage that money and how you set your standards high and achieve it.
Thank you so much. I remember when we first met 2 years ago, you said that there is no dearth of money with the government, which just felt like an idea to me. But when after reading your book, especially, I realized, and because it was coming from someone like you who's worked in the weeds for so long, it really is true. Like 1,200 crores after salaries is not a small amount for a 15 lakh population. For the audience, I've linked Dr. Aruna Sharma's book in the comments as well. So those of you are interested, I really recommend picking it up. One question that was coming up was this, right? So information management, what you said, like you used to speak to your exes, but it seems so natural to me as an especially like you mentioned in the private sector, it's very natural for knowledge to be managed and harvested before transition happens. So can you give us examples where this has been institutionalized so that it's not dependent on the local people or the IAS officers who go there, but it's been institutionalized? Any positive deviant examples that come to mind?
Yes, right from British times, there is a handing over note which is supposed to be prepared. And it's a very exhaustive note where you talk about your ideas, you talk about the direction in which you're taking a district, you talk about the irritant elements, you also talk a little bit about the staff, which you may write down or you may brief your successor verbally. So this is a norm which is not only in the districts, also as a secretary to the governments and even at the senior levels. But unfortunately, when transfers happen in a ziffy, these things don't happen, without any warning, without anything. Suddenly it happens. But what I suggest to people is take a day off or a couple of hours off and do write down and get into a habit to read it. Many of the people are in a bad habit that all my predecessors were wrong and I am the right. No. If your predecessors have climbed 3 steps, you have an advantage of 3 steps. And if you're more capable, you climb 10 steps. Nobody is stopping you from doing that. So try to work upon that. And that is something which will bring continuity. The advantage of the elected representatives are whether they have won the elections for sarpanch or panch or at the block level or district level or urban bodies, or they have lost it. They are local. They have a pulse and they understand. And I have seen successful MPs who keep this pulse alert. Like whenever I got talking to those MPs, they had every detail with them. They used to talk specifically, okay, this road is pending and it is creating problem to 20 villages. If this is done on a priority, it's going to make a difference. That irrigation will make my area 100% irrigated. This particular agriculture expert is needed to introduce this crop. So they were so involved. And I have observed them that these are the politicians who never lost the elections, right? Never lost. They always had a huge margin. So instead of temporary issues being made to win the elections, this kind of a commitment will make immortalize them. Right. So they may win, they may not win, but their name remains in the hearts of the people. Bureaucrats people will forget, but not the elected representatives. Remotely they'll remember, okay, XYZ bureaucrat was there who brought in that change. But then I think over a generation it will go away. But for elected representative, it is going to be there. It is going to be there. And the biggest earning of life is that achievement when people think about you in good terms. So I think every politician or hopeful politician should dream about it, should be known for that. And this is what I tell everybody. Like when I meet young collectors, I remember their first reaction is "Paisa nahi hai." I said, "Okay, make a list." So next day they come rushing and I get a message in Circuit House, "Madam, before meeting we want to join you for breakfast." I said, "Come." Then they say, "Okay, yesterday night we sat down and we find we have more than 1200. I have 1500 crores. I have 16. I remember Chamba in Himachal. Next day morning the collector rushed to me and he said, "Ma'am, there is 1600 crores." So I said, "Yes. Now don't come with an excuse that you can't do it. Now do it." That is what it is. So that is why it's like removing a cataract from the eyes. The money is there, but it is coming in silos. If you are smart and intelligent, understand the concept of convergence because many schemes are there with common objectives. Converge them together, use it effectively, and do it. See, Government of India also realized it when they started merging the schemes. Number of schemes have merged even in the present government. They brought it down to 69. But unfortunately, to my horror, they again added 30, over a period of time. So that is the whole problem. So you replace the old one, then it's fine. But if the old one continues and you keep on adding, then no mental computer can sort of sync all of them together. And then the money flows in bits and pieces. It doesn't make sense. And that's how, when I was Secretary IT, we made National Scholarship Portal. So 28 departments of the government are now on that portal. There is a common application and a common identification, and the money goes at fixed time in a year. And what was very surprising is it ended up into a big money saver in department because physically when they used to do, maybe they were distributing double scholarships to the same person or whatever was happening. That cleaning was not happening. So with this cleaning coming, they had savings in their budgets and yet satisfy every deserving entitled person. So use technology. Now you have an advantage of technology. When we started our career, it used to be big fat tables and Excel sheets. And I remember DOS commands, we used to put it under the glass of the table because we used to keep on forgetting those commands. So that's how we had our learning curve. But now the generation has an advantage of it. What is most important is common sense makes you succeed 90% of the time. 90% of the time. And if you have a good intention of growth, everything falls in line. Kainat, the Shah Rukh Khan's dialogue, whole Kainat works for you. I have seen it, it happens. You think as it as a very vague idea, but that vague idea transforms if your intention is correct and it is the need of the place. Right, and people join you. There may be some irritant people or some opposition, but ultimately everybody in heart of heart want good things.
Yeah. Yes, you make it seem like you're giving us hope that it's possible if we really instill this.
Yes, it is. See, that is where you have seen a good politician, a bad politician, a successful bureaucrat, not so successful. A developed area, not so developed area. The difference is this, and in fact, you'll be amazed to know non-developed areas today in India get maximum of the money. maximum funds. If you just look at in the book some of the tables, and if you do some Google, you'll find they get maximum money because much of the schemes give money on population basis, and they have huge population with them. But they don't have capacity to utilize. So even if I say corruption is mitigated, 50% of the amount lapse in those cases, in those states. Criminal, absolutely. I remember when the then finance minister in the UPA government, he mentioned in a seminar when I was talking about this, and then it became a part of the 10th plan and 11th plan. It became mandatory, the convergence concept. So at that time he mentioned, Ki, Aruna, don't you think it's a saving? Then I told him, sir, it is not a saving, it is opportunity lost. If I fail as an administrator to make a school, an opportunity is lost for that child completely, right? Because my inefficiency has delayed it by 5 years. It's gone. For that person, it's gone. So I think it's criminal. It's criminal to allow this kind of a thing to lapse. And what I say, zero tolerance and non-negotiable, the politicians should do is these parameters: top class infrastructure, top class education, top class health facilities, cleanliness, quality drinking water, because that takes care of your gastro related illness, which means 80% of illness, right? It takes care of your malaria and everything, it takes care of all this. So it's only the major illnesses where they have to be hospitalized. So look at the saving to a household. So these have to be non-negotiable. And this is something they should focus on and do it. And can be done. They don't have to spend out of their pocket. Money is there.
Yes, this is incredible. For the audience, I'm going to move to audience questions in a minute or two after my last question, so you can start putting down your questions and comments. One question I have, Arunaji, is about women in these elected representative positions, right? All of us know that there's reservation between 33 to 50% depending on the state. But we also hear of Sarpanch Patis, or Sarpanch Beta, or Sarpanch Sasur, and so on and so forth. What is your thought on it? One, how real is it? And can you share some experiences? And also, how can one make sure this doesn't happen, that an elected woman actually knows her rights and duties and takes the plunge to actually implement those? So yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, surely. Yes, Sarpanch Pati do exist. Let me make it very clear right in the beginning. And the biggest flaw and the correction which has to be done, you have said reservation for women will be by rotation. See what happens, first time a person getting elected is naive and may use Sarpanch Pati. But next time, they learn the rules and they are better off, right? So I think at least 2 tenures, the first amendment that is needed, you should allow that rotation and reservation to continue for 2 tenures. Then you rotate, then you go to a new area so that your 50% keep on swapping. Because a gap of 5 years en route means they get lost. What they have learned is get lost. So that is one. And Sarpanch Pati do exist. But the good thing, what I found, that in one round of election, the women reservation officially was 50%, and it came out to be 53%. Means 3% came on their own without reservations, right? Which is very good. And I've seen some of the Mahila Sarpanch who have learned the ropes. Very educated girls are now coming and fighting. It may be a daughter or a wife to begin with of the ex-Sarpanches, but then they pick up. They pick up very well. Their initial hesitation is, heading the board meeting or doing it. And then, some of the states came down heavily on the Sarpanch Pati concept, and they said, no, they will not be allowed in the meeting hall. And this is how these women started speaking, started understanding, started moving ahead. And, these women were quite grounded. They knew the problems. They knew the problem of drinking water, they knew the problem of filth, they knew the problem of teacher not coming and attending, they knew the problem of lady doctors. So they knew exactly where the problem is and they were able to solve it. They were able to solve it very well. So what is needed is, see, the potential is available in everyone. It's a question of giving them opportunity. So one which needs an amendment is the rotation has to be there for 2 years. And second, what has to come legally is not allow these sarpanchpatis to enter the official meetings. Right? They may be working backdoor in helping them to do hisab, kitab, and everything. Number three, now with all G2P payments and panchayat payments going digital to a considerable extent, so they are also stand protected. Their main fear was that some smart secretary of the panchayat may trap them and they may be in a problem, they don't know what they're signing. Now at least there is a trail of the payments made by the panchayats. So in the sense, the system is providing them a protection, which is good. And then people like you who will bring in these courts and give them hands-on, bring them to other women political leaders at ground level who are doing very well in their area. So, learning from peer group is the best way of learning, and that makes a lot of difference. So, the Sarpanchpati do exist, but then it's an opportunity also for them because I always say, when we were the first one to start G2P in the accounts and do away with this cash disbursement. So, like in Madhya Pradesh now, there is nothing which goes from government in cash. Everything is directly. In fact, I remember the politicians telling me, they said the crowd come for our meeting because we are going to distribute the check. Now what are we going to do? Then we created a letter, beautiful letter that this XYZ amount is approved for you. They said it's fine, but then money is already in their account. We said, okay, we'll delay the transaction by a day before you finish your meeting. So these are all the evolving things. But the money reaching into the accounts and directly going into pay, they stand protected. Technology is standing by them, and when all these things have happened now. Now this has become a part of the way the governance is happening in this country, and which is fantastic. I'll put it like it's a very good thing. So with this kind of a thing happening, I think little exposure to them, they'll.
Yes, hopefully. And also, what you mentioned about peer learning is so important. I remember in education, China, Singapore, they've set up teacher peer communities because they can teach each other best. Similarly, here, I think local representatives also have so much to share, and that we see that happening in our programs as well. And we hope that people continue doing that. I'll quickly take questions from the audience. Umesh Kumar is asking a question. He's saying, Aruna ma'am, thank you so much. It's really helpful for us. His question is, but I wanted to know one thing. According to you, what is the major issue in implementing an assembly policy at a district or a state level? So I probably means the state policy. Or maybe a national policy? What are the challenges in
See,
implementing the policy?
I'll tell you one thing that the state policies, the MLAs are supposed to legislate. So when you make a policy, if your policy is created after deliberations with your district heads, both bureaucrats and politicians, pancha, urban areas, or what in English we call it all stakeholders. So if you are touching anyone in the process and if you get into a discussion with them, then your policy is more acceptable. Then it's not difficult to implement because you understand, because one who wears the shoe knows where it pinches. You may have very great intentions, but you may find problem is lying elsewhere, which never crossed your mind at all. So it is very important to have these dialogues continuously. And policy is not also something etched in rock. En route, if you learn something, there should be no hesitation in amending it, correcting it, modifying it, and moving ahead. If the ultimate objective is the good of the stakeholders, and that is with that objective, absolutely no problems. And you have seen some of the policies have been very beneficial. Like if you look at it, the Finance Commission money reaching directly to municipal bodies and sarpanch made a lot of difference. Otherwise, the state governments used to hold that money for their wage and means. So that has completely stopped. So that makes a lot of difference when you're going. So some of the corrections in methodology and the correct policies has gone a very, very long way. Right. So I think that makes a lot of difference.
Thank you. One question which is coming to my mind as you speak about this is that of skills that politicians should have. I think some in the previous questions you referred to something like good management skills, ability to read and assimilate knowledge and listen to people. In addition to these, what are some of the skills that you think a good politician should have to make sure they're able to foresee and actually also see in the past and gather, synthesize the information to really make the work happen for the people?
Very right. See, they must study all the existing schemes in their area and the allocation that is coming. So they should prepare a ready-made document for them for reference. Very important. Because you have to develop that skill that how do you tap? Okay, now the 15th Finance Commission is going to come. How much of money is going to be allocated for Mapanchayat? State, how much is going to come? Narega, how much can it tap? What are the gaps in the infrastructure I want to focus on? In social protection, has the survey been done properly? How many people are left out? Whether they are differently abled, whether they are scholarships not reaching, whether old age pension not reaching, all that, whether they have accounts. So all this homework, they can easily do it. You have a Gram Sachiv, a Gram Sahib in every panchayat who has this ready-made data. So somebody has to really go and you have to create this database and work upon it. So it's very important to tap, and any new scheme announced, you must know. So if your gap list is ready, you will always be in a lookout from where can I tap the money for it, if there is a gap in the money required. So then you know exactly what you want from MLA fund instead of Chabutra or a gate. You can exactly say, okay, I am going to spend 10 lakhs of rupees. I am running short by 2 lakhs. You please give me 2 lakhs of rupees. That then your talk becomes more intelligent, more specific, and easy to operate. So this skill can be acquired by teaching them how to prepare this list, how to work upon it, and that will go a long way. They have to develop the skills, and then as they rise the ladder in their political things, they can always train their assistants to do this for them. Absolutely. And I've seen very successful ministers having this database. Absolutely handsome. Absolutely.
That's amazing. One of our advisors, Ujjwal sir, is saying that it's an excellent interview and he loves your clarity of thought. So I just thought I'll share that as well. I think, ma'am, as you were speaking about these policies, I would love to hear an example which is one policy that you're most proud of. You must have worked on so many, either creating, amending, implementing. What is that one policy that you're most proud of in your illustrious career?
Okay, I of course my steel policy I'm very proud of because it stood the test. And second one I'm proud of what we called it as Samagra. Samagra is a common household database and now it is executed in 8 states and central government is thinking for the entire thing. See, actually what we realize that we do number of household surveys. You have to understand the limitation of Aadhaar, right? In Aadhaar you can't make up a family. In your family, 5 people have Aadhaar card number. I can't make out that you are actually a family. They are random numbers of individuals. Many of your social protection schemes or entitlement schemes or benefit schemes, everything is household based. So you need a household wise data. So what we did, we used the NPR and SECC, Socioeconomic Cost Census, and merged the two data and created a database. And we froze the 20 columns. So your family numbers, your caste, which is verified by the person who is responsible to issue the caste certificate, your gender, your bank account number, your Aadhaar number to clean. So Aadhaar was used only as an identifier so that your name doesn't figure twice. Then similarly your other parameters, right? And then each department is to work on their own vertical columns on the same database. So the health will work on 10 columns and the PDS system will work on 3 columns and scholarship will work on 5 columns, like that. So at any given time, you have a horizontal Janmapatri of that household. The advantages is there are only 5 corrections in it, that there may be a death, there may be a birth, there may be a migration, there may be a split in a family and add-on or subtraction of a women because of marriage. So that is the local body's responsibility, that is the panchayat and the urban body, to keep this updated. Nobody else can touch this database. And all G2P goes in the bank account, which is masked and frozen in this database. The biggest advantage what we saw here is in death cases, what we realize, all below poverty line people are insured. Then the fishermen are insured. Then the dairy people are insured. So we find the same person, the government is paying premium 3-4 times, and the death claim is negligible. And what we found with LIC is needed was only a death certificate and below poverty line certificate. So when the LIC was hooked to this, the moment death certificate was posted, straight away 70,000 used to come in the account of the widow. Straight away. And 10,000 from the state government. So 80,000 you get immediately. If they are poor, then the woman will start getting her widow pension automatically. Similarly, the moment age-old pension crosses 65, your pension increases. Your age increases 80, automatically your age increases. So they don't have to run from pillar to post. So this database of having a common household database has been a big enabler and a big savings to avoid, like scholarship example, we learned here the first time and we graduated it to national level. We found that all this stops. And now everybody knows there is something called Samvaad. So the moment the birth happens, under Janani Suraksha, the woman gets, and if she is a construction laborer, then the labor department will release her 30 days of wages immediately. What she is entitled to. So she doesn't have to run here and there. So I think it's high time we reach these levels that these things get automated. So I'm really proud of this. And this has been quite appreciated both at national and international level. It got national awards also on it. And 8 governments have already shifted to this. Some call it Kutum Samagra, some call it something different, some call it something different. So it's fine. But then this is the need of the day. And this will also save the big controversy what we are having on NRC and CA. You don't have to do it at all. Actually, no. If you have this updated data, then that takes care of everything. And it's a question of analytics then after that.
Which there's a lot of ability in the system to do if, like you said, there are right managers who know how to use the skills present out there for to achieve the purpose that they've set out. We have time for 2 more questions, so I'll take Akash's question first. Akash is saying, thank you, ma'am. I had one question. What kind of influence does politics, be it at central, state, or local level, have on bureaucrats? I was curious to know about the relationship between the two.
See, the relationship has to be a respect for each other and not tread on anybody's toes and work on that 80% common objective of the growth of area. See, I always had this 20% controversial things where you don't agree. But then out of that 20% also, if we see with further 4-5% may add on. And 15% you will never agree. Right? So the two parties will never agree. So fine, the maturity lies is forget that 15% and focus on this 85%, which is going to bring the growth of the sector in which you are working in. Like the Samagra I was talking about. So when I was transferred to Govt of India, the Chief Minister called me for breakfast. So he told me, okay, you have heard about you and you have done much more than what we did and you have done a lot of blah, 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 blah. And then he said, but in the your Samagra, when you cut off the pensions of 10,000 people in my constituency, that's very difficult. Because those people were not below the poverty line. And happily they were getting these pension programs. So the moment we started relating this database, the next month the names were out of the system. And this happened in a very big way. Similarly, like I told you, scholarship duplication. Scholarship duplication, though, the politicians were very happy about, and their only hesitation was, how do we face the public? They will say, okay, this kind of a corruption was happening. I say that the statement you have to make is that you are the first one to flag it and correct it. You don't know for how many decades this has been happening. Right. So now with the system you have corrected. So that was positive. But what went negative is these doles, which they are used to getting it. And I don't blame them because, like I said, the first lesson I got, they can't say no to anybody. That bad thing the bureaucrat has to do of saying no, right? So you have to be prepared for that. And actually, the relation has to be of mutual respect and understanding that the people have put the politician for the growth of their area with the expectation and promises which they came in their manifestos. And a bureaucrat is posted there to ensure that the constitution, which talks of equity and no one should be left behind, a voice to the last person in the queue, that is taken care of. If this understanding is clear in mind, there is absolutely no problem. In between, there will be some mishaps, but it doesn't matter. It's all part of the game.
Thank you for evoking the Constitution as well, which, yeah, I hope everyone who's working for public service does. Ulhas sir has a question, ma'am. He's saying, and I love the question, he's saying post retirement, how does India use your and other capable IAS officers' expertise given shortage of management expertise in India? Your suggestions.
Surely, see what can be done. See, we have 6 lakh villages, right? And I think the urban bodies are 3,000 or so. So you try to get somebody who has this clarity of managerial skills in your local area, and no money is needed. They'll be very happy to guide you through. And that's why I try to, the book you were mentioning, I try to make it as simple a language as possible. So you can understand it and follow it, and in case of any problems you have, you can approach these experts and do it. Because it is the need of the day that you don't waste time in reinventing wheel. If somebody else has invented it, then you adapt it and make it still better so that the others can also learn from your improvements in the system. And that is how it can be used. And those who are sitting on chair, those who have retired, those who are working in the non-government organizations, they all have a role to play. They all have a role to play. And that is where it goes further.
Yeah, I hope that I hope there is a system. I know you are engaged in advisory and voluntary capacity with many organizations so that you wrote a book, which itself is a gift so that many of us can educate ourselves. I just hope a lot more people start doing it and feel like we can reach out because I've been part of non-government organizations also before. It feels like, oh, retired officers are probably inaccessible, but maybe they're not. If we just try and know who to reach out to. I think the last question I want to ask Aruna ji is actually what is your message to young people who will contest elections in the next few years? What do you want to say to them?
Yes, I want to say very clearly and from my heart, which I feel very strongly, that if you are contesting the elections, yes, winning is important, but even if you lose, you should not give up your participation in development of that area. Even sitting in opposition, you have a very strong role to play. Very, very strong role to play. There is a concept called social audit into all government schemes. I think it has, I don't hear much about it in last couple of years, but then it's a very strong concept. And even so, even if you lose, you can be an active participant there and do it. So winning is very important, and think about the growth. You and listen to everybody. Why it is important? I'll just give one example here. In a district where I was collector, I was looking for land for mandis. I used to see them sabji mandis along the roadsides, and it used to become a traffic nuisance on the day of the bazaar and everything. So I was thinking, why not have good grounds in every small, big town so that we do away with this practice. But then, as you know, government big land is a problem. So one of the open camps I used to have in one of the villages, one retired, right? Underline the word retired. The retired Patwari, right? He came forward at the end of the meeting and he said, Madam, all this Genic factory land is actually the government land. I said, no, it is the owner of the Genic factories. Even though now cotton has been replaced by soybean, they own the land because now they have become builders, and I keep on listening that they're selling some plots or something. He says, no, man, this is all government land. It was given for the purpose of industry. So the moment industry is not there, it has to come back to the government. I said, are you sure about it? He said, yes. Then I told the local officer that tomorrow in a jeep, you please bring him at the district headquarters. And from what you call as your record room, you take out that document. He took it out. And we saw that. And then we sat and we issued notices to everybody. It became a big turmoil. We had the topmost lawyers standing in the district magistrate's court. We combined all those cases and we passed a very well written order, which stood the test right till Supreme Court. All this land came back to government. A copy of that was circulated to all district, all states. And same thing happened then in Mumbai also, all the small lands and everything which came back to the government. So, in the sense now, how knowledge is there with the retired person, Patwari. He had the knowledge, but he didn't have chair, right? You get the chair, use that knowledge and do what is to be done. That is where the difference is. So listen to everybody, because you are alone. You may not have that kind of a knowledge, but if you have ears and pick up the right things, then yes, you yourself will find a way how to go. So a young politician, listen to everybody, listen to people. And the fourth ladder, which I didn't mention before, is community involvement. Do use community. So whether no child marriage, no untouchability, no harassment of women, all this doesn't need money. It's need your mindset change. And if you decide that in your area, in your panchayat, in your ward, in your locality, this is not going to happen, it will not happen. What we used to call in olden days, nazar ka bhai. If it is not acceptable in a society, like throwing litter now is not acceptable, nobody throws. And when it was acceptable, everybody was throwing. So that is what matters. So it is very, very important that young representative election should not be end in itself. It's a beginning. It's a beginning. It comes with a lot of responsibility. And if you do your homework beforehand, day one, you can start making a changes. And every quarter, review it. So you will see you have touched life of every person in your constituency. That makes your job easy. Your intentions are reflected, and people will join you. So what you said, we want good politicians. So that good will automatically happen. Automatically happen.
Amazing. Last few thoughts. So actually, for those who joined, I do want to summarize the four ladders that Arunaji has mentioned. First is infrastructure, second is social protection, third is livelihood, and the fourth is community involvement. Ma'am, before you go, I do, Prakhar has said something. Prakhar is the co-founder of Indian School of Democracy, and you've met him. He's saying that young people who want to get into grassroots politics, it will be great opportunity for them to be mentored by you. Can we have a pool of 10 officers like you who mentor them?
Surely, surely. Like I can say definitely for myself, I'll be very happy to mentor. And definitely in the process, we'll identify the 9 more who will be very helpful to mentor them. Because you see some of the sitting officers also who are still in service will be very happy to do that. Right. So coming from their area, they can be mentored very well. Because those 10 people can set an example and be instrumental in the peer group learning. I think the self-help group is a very good model where peer group learning made a lot of difference. One good group started training people of other people, and that made lots and lots of difference. The slogan I have given to the officer who was responsible for livelihood was BPL to Lakhpati. So the first reaction was, nahi, nahi, ye kaise ho sakta hai? I said, nothing doing. I said, you tell me, you spend this money, you spend that money, your X scheme, Y scheme, Z scheme, you have so many meetings and everything. Agar Lakhpati nahi bane, to fir kya kar rahe ho? Kyun kar rahe ho? And what amazed me was they were successful in doing for, then I remember the number was around 14 lakh people and households. And the only request was they said, don't strike out our names from BPL. We said, we won't, unless until you say so. And we gave those random numbers to political heads and told them कि इनके मोबाइल पे कभी भी फोन नंबर पे आप कॉल करो जब आप फ्री हो. And that made a difference. And slowly people started coming to strike their name out of the BPL list. Right. That is there. See, the money is there. So if you have land, you make your land more productive. If you have skills, you make the skills more productive. If you have other things, so focus it. Focus it. And that's what matters. And it's possible. It's possible. That's
Yeah, it is possible. Yes, we'll come to you, ma'am, for mentorship. And a lot of our alumni who are thinking of contesting in the next couple of years, we also love for you to guide them. Thank you so much
surely.
for
Right.
spending your Sunday. And thank you, audience, for being with us on a Sunday. Have a good rest of the day.
Right. Thank you. It's pleasure talking to young people. Thank you. That makes me optimistic about India. Yes, we will be leaders. Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye. Bye.